The chairman of the All Progressive Congress (APC) in Lagos State, Southwest Nigeria, Cornelius Ojelabi, has extended his congratulations to President Bola Tinubu on his victory at the Presidential Election Petition Court on Wednesday. Now speaking to journalists shortly after the verdict at the party's secretariat, Ojelabi emphasized that the former two-term governor of Lagos State, which earned this triumph through his exceptional dedication before the election. Ojelabi further stated that the APC was content with the ruling of the PEPC, as evidenced by the significant turnout of party stakeholders and members who gathered at the party secretariat to observe the court proceedings and verdict on an outdoor screen.
We are highly delighted. We are happy with the results of the tribunal. As far as APC is concerned, we are not surprised because we diligently work for the victory. And you agree with me that Ashwaju himself, the President of Federal Republic of Nigeria, really did. You can't move pre-election matters after the election has been conducted. These are issues that has been well addressed. And I think to us as a party, to Nigerians, we are quite satisfied with the content of the judgment.
Of course, reacting to this particular development is Public Affairs Analyst and Executive Director, Lead Network Africa, Chukwuma, Okenwa, and Policy Strategist and the Group CEO of Global Investment and Trade Company, Baba Yusuf. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. All right, so let me start with you, Chukwuma. In the light of the ruling, what effects do you anticipate on societal perceptions of the judiciary and national stability?
In all honesty, my perception of the judgment yesterday was as if to say it was the judiciary versus the petitioners. It does appear the judiciary stood in as defendants for the respondents. I mean, in everything, what we just said, that striking out issues that before now Nigerians perceive that this is like constitutional issues. And it's not just one that could be pushed aside, but for the judiciary to come up making excuses in some very sensitive issues, such as like INEC reneging on its own rules. Yes, the Constitution provides for transference of results, which can be done electronically or otherwise. But then also the same Electoral Act empowers INEC to set its own guidelines. So when that is done and that is not followed, then why then the heavy investment that was done in getting all those equipment to ensure that the results were transmitted? So I think that looking at the substance of the issue would have been a nation that, of course, creates a legal framework, whether it's be like by the budget process. Once that budget is passed, it becomes a law. And once there is a marked taxpayers fund to ensure smooth run of election, then that should be heeded to. And most importantly, this wouldn't be the first election. We've seen like this beavers being deployed, both in Osun State, Ekiti State, Anambra, and before now. So what should make the difference in that regard?
All right, I want to go to you, Baba Yusuf. What's your own perception of yesterday's ruling?
Thank you very much for having me, Dapo. Well, in my opinion, like I said at the beginning of this litigation, that when you go to battle, you prepare for it. In the case of litigation, the court is not a Father Christmas. I'm not happy because both respondents, or the three respondents, APM, PDP, and the Labour Party, it appears they didn't really do their homework very well. Because if you listen carefully, which I did, I sat through the entire process of reading that judgment. And as we know, there are bases upon which judgment will be passed. A specificity of clarity and unambiguous submission of evidence and witnesses, and within the provisions of the Electoral Act and Constitution. To my mind, the outcome, given the detailed nature, because a lot of people were like, why did it take long? I like the fact that it was televised, and we heard clearly, the positions taken by the respected judges with regards to the outcome. So to my mind, the outcome is in line with what was presented before these judges, in line with the provisions of the Electoral Act and the Constitution. The court will not give appellants what they didn't ask for. So to my mind, justice is served, albeit for me is the lessons to be taken going forward by the appellants, in this case, the Labour Party, the PDP, and APM, and then for us as Nigerians, how do we move forward on this? I don't want to be too sentimental or emotional about it, but rather to be practical with regards to the provisions of the law. So the outcomes are here. We are going to deal with it and now task the government on the way forward. Indeed, also recognizing the fact that the Constitution and the law gives the appellants, the presidential candidates of Labour Party and the PDP, because indeed all the reliefs being sought by the APM were all pre-election matters, and that leaves much to be desired. I see people coming to Presidential Election Petition Court with pre-election matters. People, it appears, wants to waste their time and resources. Now, moving forward, there is a provision that allows the appellants to go to the highest court of the land, and that's the Supreme Court. I hope and pray, even though there's no provision to review or to amend, the submissions by appellants, that they may review their strategy in now representing, whatever they present with a view to see if they can be able to turn the tide, and at the end of the day to see how things play out at the Supreme Court in line with provisions of the law.
All right, I still want to stay with you, Yusuf. I mean, you said that yesterday, what was the verdict was as a result of what was presented to the judiciary, and they acted in accordance with what they had. But some of the opinion that some of those laws in itself might just be a bit contradictory. So, for instance, you talk about the 25% margin in Abuja, for instance, and also the fact that issues concerning the past or the history of the president was raised and just, referred to as unmeritorious or put aside. Wouldn't you also want to say that in itself, the judiciary might have maybe overlooked or contradicted itself in certain areas, in the verdict?
Certainly not that one. I'll tell you why. First of all, let's talk about the first issue you talked about with regards to the process itself. You see, what was presented before these judges were evidences and witnesses to that effect. And as I mentioned earlier, there are issues that we all know within the Electoral Act are pre-election matters. There are issues that we all know are local standing issue, i.e. things that people have to be part of those that are recognized by law to have grounds or issue with that. And to that extent, you can see how it is a double-edged sword, where the presidential candidate of the Labour Party was able to enjoy that provision of the law when the APC said, he was not qualified to contest because he was not a member of the Labour Party beyond the window he was supposed to be, a member to be given the flag of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party. The Vice President of the Federal Republic also enjoyed that provision, where also it is addressed that the people that are raising the issues are not within those parties. It's an intra-party issue, and indeed it's a pre-election matter. Like I said earlier, Dapo, the courts or the judges are not supposed to, give a gift of judgment. Now, to that extent, it is about the strategy of the appellants ab initio in ensuring that they have a well-casted, case to put before the court. That obviously they couldn't do because there is no how a pre-election matter can be adjudged by these judges at this stage in time. So no matter how good it looks for all of us, it is a matter that should have come earlier, which it didn't. Now, regarding the questionable character allegation raised against the president, this is a long-standing issue, even build up to the election. But indeed, it is also, we all know, it is a pre-election matter. And while we are at it also, Dapo, the evidence is presented, before the judges, includes the letter from the Embassy of the United States of America. And I tell my friends that I agree, and I say, yes, it's true. But then that means there's also an issue with the United States of America aiding and abetting whatever we are saying, because the letter presented by the United States of America through its embassy exonerated, in this case, that candidate from quote unquote criminal acts.
All right, I'll get back to you,
stated,
Baba, on that one. I'll get back to you, but let's listen to.
Come again.
Let's listen to. I'll get back to you. But let's listen to Chukwuma right now. Chukwuma, would you say there are any lessons learned from the tribunal or the verdict of yesterday, particularly that will shape the future landscape of the political sector of Nigeria?
Well, if there will be any lesson, that of course will be that it is no longer business as usual. I mean, for Nigerians to even contemplate the possibility of the judiciary upturning the victory of a sitting president, I mean, it's really like quite ambitious of us as Nigerians, judging from antecedents. And that to me suggests that though we are not there, but we are getting there soon. And very soon, we're going to be having a situation like my friend over there keep mentioning about pre-election matters and all those technicalities. But the truth of the matter is that an election is done, right? If someone was not qualified and it's not even supposed to run at the first instance and is reviewed before the court and they discover that this person should be disqualified, I mean, it's still within the ambit of the law. There is a possibility to disqualify someone. And then we have a situation where INEC have been issued sitting on most of the evidences. The court didn't do anything about it. And then it's now being referenced. How about the tons and tons of evidence that we see as was presented by the Labour Party? A situation where you see PDP, Labour Party, get some of the best hands, I mean, senior advocates of Nigeria who's been in this matter. You know how many cases you have to win? And then the judiciary is making a mess of them as if to say, even on both parties, on both angles that gave APC a match for their money, cannot hire the best of lawyers to engage them. You kind of discredit the lawyers of Labour Party, and same also with that of PDP. And only those that were right was even one that in one of the cases we saw an APC lawyer challenging the judiciary, teaching them on what to do. My dear, if you look at that case without bias, it is very clear that something has gone beyond the scene, right? So there is, of course, what we call like off the scene, and I can tell you that probably must have happened for us to see the kind of things we see where it was like visibly, instead of what is reasonably expected, for the judges also to review. I mean, you don't just talk about merit in one angle, right? It's all about, oh, fine, the petitioners have made their petition. How about the APC in the course of like bringing their own case to provide evidence was a problem, to even address some of issues like even dual citizenship, right? Where we had like someone defending APC there, they're mentioning that for the very fact that it's an expired passport also means expired citizenship, which the judiciary should have been able to look at the point of reasoning on both angles before delivering judgment. But what we saw is trying to do everything to strike off the points of the petitioners and giving a gift of judgment, let me deploy the term of my colleague there, to the APC, which, I mean, an average Nigerian reasonably expect that is the way it's going to turn. But for Nigerians even to contemplate a possibility tells me that we are heading somewhere democratically. All
right, Chukwuma, I know we can go on and on, but before we go, gentlemen, I want to direct these questions to both of you. I will start with you, Baba Yusuf, and I wanted, if you can answer in 30 seconds each. Now, the Labour Party's leadership has actually, and not just the Labour Party, actually the opposition leadership has disapproved the verdict, and of course has vowed to appeal, with the Supreme Court. Do you see anything unusual happening? What are your thoughts generally? I want to start with you, Yusuf.
Well, to be honest, based on what I have seen so far, I don't expect any change in the current position. Issues of jurisdiction is what has made this petition court not to address the issue of, criminality and candidature. Issues of evidence that are fake and determined to be unsubstantiated can also not be accepted under the law. So I don't expect much difference, but of course, I'm not the court. We will wait and see the outcome because the judges will know better, and we hope and pray at the end of the day, justice will be served.
How about you, Chukwuma?
Like I say, it's really interesting. We've long gone beyond the days where a presidential candidate will say, I don't even accept the result, and motion the followers to create mayhem. The very fact that losing out in the tribunal, someone is also believing that anything different could come out from the Supreme Court tells me it is healthy for our democracy. So I'm expecting, yes, the ball is now in the court of the Supreme Court. We are not going to judge them until, you know, when we see what they do with what is on the table. So let them review that, right? All eyes will now be on the Supreme Court to see what they can do differently.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.